Hey there everyone, welcome back to the Overflow. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as the Hatman, live from a undisclosed secret location.
Yes, Hatman is not at his normal dive this week, so we will be, rolling with what we got, because I am clearly out of it. I have been very, very headachy because of weather changes these last couple of days. I'm now kind of recovering. Kind of being the key word, because I feel like I've been asleep more than I've been awake these last 2 days. So, yeah, not fun
Never
times.
fun.
No.
Never fun.
So that's why there's not a light on my face right now, so the camera quality is not going to be as good as it usually is. I do apologize for that. But anyway, let's go ahead and get straight into it. Hatman, as always, I'm going to let you choose. What do we want to start with, politics or entertainment?
Well, I have a coin this time, so I can actually flip it. So heads will be politics, tails will be entertainment, like usual.
All right.
Tails is entertainment.
Okie dokie. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Micah Clark wants to know, what are our favorite progressive rock bands? I've got a mental list, Hatman, so I'll actually let you go ahead on that one.
You know, you go ahead and start. I'll have to think about mine.
Oh, really? I figured you have one, and that's about it. But progressive rock.
No, I'll have to think.
Well, let me think here. So the top one that would be on everybody's list is Rush. That's a given. Other than Rush, I would have to say Dream Theater would be one of my favorites up until Octavarium. Then Devin Townsend and the Devin Townsend Project, which are, Project is like a whole separate band from his solo stuff. Solo stuff, he tends to play every instrument himself. But that one was probably my favorite as anything Devin Townsend's doing. Because he's very out there. I wonder if King Crimson is considered progressive. Tool would be another one. Tool's progressive metal. Yeah, King Crimson's considered that. King Crimson would probably be one.
I guess Queen would also be considered a prog rock band too.
Queen kind of skates between genres, yeah. So you could maybe fit them into that. But trying to think of ones that I listen to. And then I would have to say probably Mastodon would be another one of my favorites. And I think that for me that's about it. There's other, picks that are out there, but I have to admit that I don't listen to very often, like Yes or Jethro Tull.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my picks.
I'll throw in one that they're not particularly well known anymore, but the Moody Blues. If you guys like music, Days of Future Past. Past is in P-A-S-S-E-D, not like the
Not like the X-Men comic. Yeah.
No, not quite.
But yeah, those would be our picks then. And then favorite progressive album for me of all time would probably be Transcendence by the Devin Townsend Project.
Mm.
Either that or I think Scenes from a Memory by Dream Theater. Also,
I gave my suggestion for an album. So.
Dream Theater is a weird one because probably the most talented gathering of musicians during their prime ever. That easily the best drummer since Neil Peart, easily one of the best guitarists since Hendrix, best bassist I've ever heard in John Myung. Jordan Rudess, their keyboardist, is phenomenal. James LaBrie is a great singer for the style of music that they're doing. Like it's ridiculous how talented that band is. Was ever since they lost Portnoy, their current drummer is just not as good. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the next bit. So Octus Whisper wants to know, despite the attempts of the intellectually malnourished, given subpar reviews for Games Gone, it seems to be doing quite well. Can we say game journalism is dead? Well, no, because there's some people who are still making a living off of it, but I would definitely say that a lot of game journalists are sort of out of touch with what people enjoy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, another drop in the bucket on that one.
And when you look at it, a game like Days Gone checks all the right boxes. You know, it's a zombie game. People like zombies. It's open world. People like open world. You know, it's, you know, obviously the Sony crowd who love their exclusives and are always looking out for it. You know, they're gonna snatch that shit up the instant it comes out. But it does seem to have, you know, everything that what people are looking for. You know, it scratches what I call that Walking Dead itch. You know, it has that proper amount of zombies and drama, and then something new to add into the mixture to keep you coming back. You know, I think that you know, that's enough to make money. You know, is it the most interesting thing ever? Probably not. I haven't played it myself. I'd like to, but that'll have to be something down the road because I'm kind of short on cash these days. But regardless, one thing that I would just put in there is some of the reviews that I read of it were basically being reviewed by people who were tired of the zombie genre and all the things that come with it. Well, if you're tired of the zombie genre, you're probably not the right person to be reviewing the game, or you need to be disclosing to your audience, like, look, this game is clearly not for me, so I'm probably not going to like it as much as you are. That's all you have to put right out of the gate is, this game is probably not for me, I'm probably not going to like it as much as you are. That's it. That's all you have to do. And this is the one thing that was funny about the whole Gamergate thing is, like, proper disclosure is not hard. All you have to do is be honest.
Really not.
Just be like, yeah, this isn't my thing, but I'm assigned to review it for this website. I'm going to do my job, so I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. Bam, audience still loves you. It's not hard.
I mean, it reminds me of that guy who got a preview for, I think it was like Rock Band 4 or something.
Yeah,
and the whole time
Colin Campbell from Polygon.
Yeah. The whole time he was just talking about like how disinterested in the game he was and like him drinking the whole time and shit, like barely anything about the game itself. And it's like, okay, at least make an attempt. You don't have to like it, but my God, at least try. But
do your fucking job.
It was a blog post. He literally took a blog post and turned it into a goddamn preview article.
Yeah, it was Tumblr tier. Like, it was that bad.
So I mean, I don't trust it anymore because it doesn't feel like enthusiast press anymore. It feels like a lot of games journalists are just, they don't give a damn about what the majority of gamers are playing.
Yeah,
they like their little indie darlings. They like the different sort of experiences and whatnot. And maybe that's because they feel really jaded, or maybe that's because they've gone all in on the fuck the gamer identity bullshit.
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, it's
possible too.
There's a general disdain that you get from all of them about their own audiences, and on top of that, one thing that I find interesting about this whole situation just is the fact that they're completely and totally unwilling to get into the things that they're covering. And I get that it's a trendy thing to kind of act like you're above it all, but when you're so clearly not above it all, people get tired of you very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go over the next question. Diego Camacho wants to know thoughts on Mel Gibson and Shia LaBeouf making a movie about the Rothschilds. Will we get a meme worthy of replacing the Jew button? I haven't heard about this.
Well, I have not either, but
we'll have to ask us again when we got a little bit more context on it, because I haven't even looked into this idea.
This is going to be conspiracy theory, the movie, isn't it?
That's what makes me wonder.
This is going to be great.
All right, so here's one that I think is going to be really good for us to answer. So we're going to save it till the end. But so we'll skip it, come back to it. Brian Gilmartin wants to know thoughts on the early death of WWE diva Ashley Massaro. Was revealed today, oddly enough, that it was a death by hanging. She had had long-standing struggles with depression and mental illness. And even while she was at WWE, there was a report, there was a lawsuit, and this is where things get shady with her, and people tried to drum it up to get some controversy going, but it ended up going nowhere because there's a specific fact that can't be overlooked. So Massaro was part of a big lawsuit against the WWE, and one thing that she alleged was that while they were doing it was like a USO style tour, because the WWE does a lot of stuff with the troops, that she was drugged and raped by somebody in the army. And there has been no corroborating evidence that actually happened. Because she says quite a bit that Maria Kanellis, who is with the WWE again, was privy to what happened afterwards. Now, the one thing that makes it scummy more so than anything that I guess could be sort of verified was Vince McMahon telling her, don't let this one bad experience taint what we're trying to do here. And I'm like, yeah, that is kind of bad. And apparently there was an agreement on all sides to let the whole thing disappear, which makes me wonder the legitimacy of the statement. Because if you've been raped by a member of the military during the Iraq War, why would you not come forward with it? Like, why take this long? Like we always say, Tumblr is not 911. And the fact that this came up in a deposition in a civil case years later, that, by the way, that civil case, with all of this said, was thrown out. Completely dismissed by a judge, I think speaks volumes to its legitimacy. Not to denote the woman's, statements or to show any disdain. I'm a third party observer. I have no evidence to go on here. It is literally he said, she said. Mm. And the court said that there was no validity for this lawsuit to go forward. So that kind of that element of it, I saw some social justice types trying to latch onto with the whole believe all women thing. It obviously didn't go anywhere. The only thing that you're going to find is that Vince McMahon's an asshole. Well, we've always known Vince McMahon's an asshole. Like, that's not new. So, and he's convinced people to walk away from traumatic experience before. He's convinced people with money to, cut a cast off a broken arm and work a wrestling match. Because that's what he does. He's a businessman. He's going to pay you to do things, especially if he knows it's going to make money. Is he the most moral human being on earth? Hell no. I'm not defending the man. I'm just saying that the situation probably has more to it that we don't know, and until that part of it, we probably won't know all the facts until more people come out with the story. Because I've noticed that Maria Kanellis, who was supposedly there at the time, very hush about it, has not said anything. So, and nobody's reached her for comment either. But other than that, it is sad to see. Massaro seemed to be somebody that at the time, while she was in WWE, was well liked. They even had her do Playboy, which was a big thing that they would, do with their more popular divas at the time. She got a pretty substantial push from WWE when she was around. I mean, they had her attached to the tag team champions, Brian Kendrick and Paul London, for a while, if I remember right, as their manager. So it's sad to see. It's always sad to see with these sorts of things. It wouldn't surprise me, though, if this is, if her mental problems were just something that didn't go very well treated as time went on. and as such ended the way that it did. Because oftentimes whenever these issues happen, WWE does tend to reach out to their alumni and help them out. So, I don't know. I don't think we're going to know the full story for a while. I just think it's sad to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. Incel Mafioso wants to know, what franchise would you like to see turned into an RPG?
Oh, God.
Which one hasn't at this point?
I don't know that I would want any franchise turned into an RPG.
Well, you're not even a big RPG guy outside of Pokemon.
Not really. No.
As for me, I really have no clue. I'm gonna be honest. I really have no idea. I think the problem with an RPG is that you have to have your story first and then build the game around it.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of cases, you could probably turn anything into an RPG with enough effort. So, but there's no franchise that I would say this absolutely has to, because I've seen some franchises be turned into RPGs and it just falls flat. So,
Sonic the Dark Brotherhood.
I was actually thinking of City of Heroes.
Mm.
I'm of the opinion that superhero stuff only makes good RPGs if it's an action RPG a la Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Yeah. No. Sonic RPG Dark Brotherhood or whatever it was called. That, oh my God.
That was even done by BioWare.
Yeah, and that was shit.
Well, it's just not a franchise that's made for it. So
no, it's really not. Of all the things that they have done with Sonic games, RPGs, nope.
Yeah, I'm not gonna denigrate them because they did what they could with what they had.
Yeah.
So it just wasn't a good idea.
No, no, it wasn't.
All right. Norriton wants to know, outside of waifu bait, what other anime trends do we dislike? High school.
Yes.
Why is everything high school?
Yes.
Why is literally everything high school?
Mine is a trend in anime especially, but it's also just more generalized. The whole teenager chosen one that has to save the world. Like, I get it, that's a extremely popular trope, but it's been done to death. It's basically nothing but young adult, and yeah, this is basically all of shonen anime, but my God, like, please stop, or at least try to do something different with it. It feels like it's all the fucking same.
Yeah, it really just kind of blends together after a while.
Yeah. Yeah, high school that God, there's one more. There's one more, and for some reason it's like on the tip of my fucking tongue.
I fucking hate harem anime.
I don't.
I mean, that's part of the whole waifu bait thing, but I really fucking hate harem anime because it's bullshit.
I don't, as long as it's played for comedic purposes. As soon as you start getting really kind of serious with it, nah. Mm-mm.
It's bullshit, though. It makes no fucking sense.
Well, yeah, I know.
You're gonna put a horny teenager around a bunch of beautiful women. It's like I've said before. If that were me, in 9 months they'd all be pregnant. Like, seriously, it's some varying degree.
Yeah, that's why I say, like, I prefer it if it's played for laughs. Like, it's ridiculous. It acknowledges the ridiculousness of it, and it just goes with that flow. like a B movie that knows it's a B movie, you know?
Well, even then, it just, I don't know, it just never, because the character trope is always the same. Oh, he's sensitive and he's nervous around women. Give me a fucking break. Like the first one I ever saw was Tenchi Muyo, and I think to myself, I'm sorry, but this is nonsense. He would have been face deep between Ryoko's legs in 5 fucking minutes, and we all know it. Quit your bullshit. Stop it. So, alright, Daniel Garza has a question for me specifically. I got to write a part of Jojo. What is it about? What characters are there? What stands are used? Etc., etc. I would rewrite the last part of Stone Ocean and not fucking kill everyone. Because I really think that that's probably one of the more controversial endings to a manga I've ever seen. Is like they literally kill the entire JoJo line like that, just fucking dead. By the way, one of the people who gets killed can stop time, and it's like, what the fuck, really? So, it just doesn't... That didn't vibe with me very much. But, in all seriousness, though, I could never really write a story like JoJo. It's a little too out of my depth in regards to that sort of thing. You know, my writing style is a bit more grounded. You know, I don't really dabble in the obtuse very often, and JoJo is completely obtuse, which is its strength. You know, you don't really see that sort of writing from me, so I really can't say. You know, I would be more suited to writing like a Mobile Suit Gundam, or something along those lines.
Something more straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, Samurai Bear wants to know, do we think that Static Shock could work as a movie? Maybe.
Yes. Absolutely. I think it'd work better as a series. But
because it already did.
Yeah, absolutely. But
my question with it being is like, what is it going to do that Shazam didn't already do?
Yeah, that's the thing, though.
That's the issue you run into with it.
I guess you'd have to make it more of a socially aware movie.
Ugh.
Yeah, I know, but like I'm just thinking back to the cartoon and even the comics, and you know, Dwayne McDuffie did not shy away from that stuff, but at the same time, it wasn't like ridiculously preachy either.
Well, that's because Dwayne McDuffie had the ability to use subtext.
Yeah.
Nobody knows subtext these days.
Yeah. Well, some stuff came across as like really proselytizing, I guess I could say. But for the most part, no. You were able to get into it, and you didn't feel like, okay, the politics of this is really taking me out. Like the immersion was still there. But you know, Dwayne McDuffie's no longer with us, God rest his soul. So I don't know that I would trust really anyone to do it right.
And that's generally where what you're left with, and that's the unfortunate thing, because you've got straight superhero stories with, you know, Shazam as the kid, and then you want the black kid, which is unfortunately how everybody's portraying it, with Into the Spider-Verse. So where you go from there is, you know, you would have to either go totally socially conscious, or you're gonna, you know, run the risk of being a ripoff of the other two previously mentioned movies.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I think it can be done, but it would have to take a lot of precision.
yeah, and I don't know of anybody in the current day and age that really has that ability.
I think maybe Ryan Coogler would be the closest that you could get to that.
Maybe, but even then, we'll have to see how the next Black Panther turns out.
Yeah, that is true.
Because the question is whether or not Coogler is going to bow into social pressure for him to make a woke movie, or if he's going to actually just try to entertain people.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. We've got Panther and we've got Creed also, and both did touch on it, but it didn't go full woke.
Yeah, it didn't go very far at all.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2 questions that are going to take a little longer for us to answer. First one: what are our top 5 mecha, each of us? So
God.
mine's pretty easy. From the top, number 1 is Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, always will be. Number 2 is Evangelion. Number 3 would probably be G Gundam, just because it's fun as hell. Number 4, that's where things start getting a little tricky. Because it's hard to just not list off Gundam, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the trickiest part. And I'm probably not going to name a lot of... people are going to be like, you didn't name X, Y, or Z. Like, let me just say this outright. No, I didn't like Gurren Lagann. I thought it was stupid. Big O would have to be another one. And then... I think I would actually have to say probably Mobile Suit Gundam, the 08th MS team. So yeah, I'm a big Gundam fan. But yeah, you probably, for those who are asking, you didn't say, yeah, Gurren Lagann. I thought Gurren Lagann was stupid. You didn't say Razafon. Couldn't get into it. You know, what about Mazinger? I've seen some of the OVAs that are pretty good, but they don't really hit my top at all. And no, I haven't watched all the way through Iron Blooded Orphans yet. I've just started it. What do you got, Hatman?
She's not as well versed in mecha at all. I just bought Knights of Sidonia not long ago, and that's been on my list of more watch that. Ava was there. I don't know if I put OG Mobile Suit Gundam or Data Gundam on there. Okay, I almost feel like I'd have to pick one. But Robotech would also be on there too.
You mean Macross?
Yes.
Or did you only experience it as Robotech?
I only experienced it as Robotech, but
okay.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
Well, we didn't get like full blown Macross until way later.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of the same thing with Star Blazers. That's how I knew it. Star Blazers, not Space Battleship Yamato.
Yeah.
So. But yes, that's about all I can give you right now. I will give you guys an update on Knights of Sidonia once I finish it.
It's okay. That's all I can say about it. I saw the first season. It's okay. But
fair enough.
Yeah, that's one thing that I have to say is like, man, I people are gonna hate me for this, but I think Gurren Lagann sucks. I thought it was just fucking stupid.
I couldn't get into it. Like I thought for sure, the memes were going to do it for me, but nope.
No.
Nope.
It was just one of those things, like I tried it. It's one of the... Every once in a while I have a sleepless night where I'm battling my depression and I'm just watching something. And usually that is the time where I will put in an anime I have never watched before. And I will probably end up hating it. And that was one. I just watched like 3 or 4 episodes of it. I'm like, this is fucking dumb.
Yeah.
So,
I've
but
had
then
people
again,
tell me,
you
"Oh,
look
it
at the
gets better,
mecha
like,
stuff
halfway
that
through."
you look at the mecha stuff I'm into. It's all war, or something, or it's got a darker tone to it, you know. But that's kind of the stuff that I roll in, you know.
Yeah.
Because I recently was
Any-
rewatching
any-
08MS Team, and 08MS Team is tense as hell. And then like Gundam, like, and that's the one thing I've always loved about Gundam is that it does tension a lot better than any other mecha you'll ever see.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I like Wings so much is because it came around at a time where the protagonists were almost always somebody who was thrust into war, doesn't like killing people, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, if you're such a pacifist, why are you killing people? Like, Jesus Christ, really? And Gundam Wing completely subverts that and says, no, all of our lead characters are going to be assassins in mobile suits that are nigh unstoppable. Because fuck it. And that's why I like Wing so much. You know, because the lead character's a killer. And he's completely and totally unabashed to the fact that he is a killer. You know, and it's the
Almost
same thing.
streamlined in a way.
In a way, and then G Gundam in a similar fashion. Like the lead guy is on a quest for revenge, you know, and he's a martial artist. He knows he's got to fight. He's not. He has no bones about that. You know, he doesn't. You know, he doesn't have this sort of flowery. He's not. Amuro Ray is a great character, but you can't do more than one Amuro Ray before it starts to get old.
Yeah.
And that was my problem with Gundam Unicorn. It was Amuro Ray all over again. And it's like, enough. For the love of God, enough. Fucking hippies. Alright. Final question from entertainment is, what are the definitions of subversion and deconstruction in storytelling? I'm not sure that I get what the two are. So we do talk a lot about both, given current trends, because you do see a lot of both. A lot of people get into a well-established franchise, and their goal is to subvert your expectations, like what Rian Johnson did with The Last Jedi. And then there's deconstruction, the idea of pulling something apart to observe it. And that's a lot of what I get on Mark Miller for, is he constantly does that with his stories, and it gets really old. So let's get the actual definitions. So what is deconstruction from a literary perspective? It's a method of cultural analysis, and this is how it's defined by dictionary.com, is a method of critical analysis of philosophical and literary language that emphasizes the internal workings of language and conceptual systems, the relational quality of meaning, and the assumptions implicit in forms of expression. Basically pulling apart to see what it is and what makes it tick, and then sort of flipping that on its head as a form of entertainment. I mentioned Mark Miller. Mark Miller does it with almost everything he writes. The Ultimates was a deconstruction. His run on The Authority was a deconstruction. What's another really good one that Mark Miller's done? Wanted. Wanted is probably the best example. Total deconstruction of the villain complex. You know, and some of these can be really good. I thought Wanted was fucking cringe. I actually like the movie more than the comic, and I'm one of the few that'll say that. I thought Wanted was just like, the end of it was just like, oh, shut the fuck up. I've actually thought about having a arc in Project Lazarus where the lead character gets like zapped through different universes, and one of them has like, he walks out of it holding you know, like he Sub-Zero'd the lead character from Wanted, basically, and just throws the spine away, because I hate that comic so much. And that's generally the problem with deconstruction, is it's preachy. It's like, you wanted the hero to win? Fuck you! You You know, and it's doing it to kind of just turn things on its head. And the problem is it inevitably will end up as something that just kind of, if it's on its own and it's short and can still tell a good story, then it can, you'll get the Ultimates, like Mark Millar's Ultimates Volume 1 is a really good self-contained story. But whenever you stretch out and you try to do deconstruction for too long, you end up coming across as preachy and ridiculous. Another really good example of that would be Ultimates Part 2. And then it eventually, Jeff Loeb takes over the third volume, and it's just terrible. And by the way, Volume 3 is Deconstruction too. Just a really, really bad one, because Jeff Loeb was not in a good place when he was writing comics around the Quesada era. He really could not make a good comic to save his life. And I feel bad for him because he was such a talented... he is such a talented guy. So that's deconstruction. Is you're pulling something apart to kind of examine it and tell a story while you're doing the examination. And yeah, sometimes it just doesn't come across very well. Subversion of expectation
it's a lot of
completely different. 'Cause subversion is, they're not really trying to tell you a good story. For all of Mark Millar's faults, he's trying to entertain you. He just has a style. Same with Garth Ennis. Garth Ennis is a deconstructionist. But he's trying to entertain you. My favorite writer of all time in comic books, Warren Ellis, who and Hatman can tell you, I pull a lot from Warren Ellis in my writings. Warren Ellis is deconstructionist too, but he's really good at it, and he's trying to entertain you. And I've lost Hatman here, so we'll get him back here in a second. Hopefully he reconnects soon.
Am I disconnected?
You're back now.
I wasn't disconnected. I was just muted.
Oh, it gave me the disconnected noise.
That's weird.
Yeah, I lost you for a second.
Oh.
So anyway,
sorry.
That's all right. But but deconstruction can be entertaining if nothing else. It just depends on how the person is telling the story. I said, Warren Ellis is really good at it. Mark Millar, when he's on, is really on. Who's another good one? I should know his name because he did New X-Men. Hey man, what's wrong with me? My brain's not working.
Mine's not working either.
Because Ethan was on that book for a while. Grant Morrison. Grant Morrison's a really good deconstructionist.
Bless. How can I forget Grant Morrison?
Yeah, Grant Morrison's a really good deconstructionist. But he's, again, they're aiming to entertain you.
Yeah.
But
I mean, there's a difference between observing like the how and the why, and really getting deep into a character's motives.
Yeah.
And then just trying to push it out of the way and be like, see, this character that you like is actually horrible, and trying to make you fucking hate them. Like what Tom King did recently with Wally West.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, boy.
Well, here's the problem. Tom King is a whole other discussion. But the whole thing with Tom King, and what I think that I get about Tom King that a lot of people don't, is that when you're writing about characters with mental illnesses, or you're writing a breakdown of sanity, it does not make for very good stories for superheroes.
No.
Because
not usually.
I am of the opinion that if Tom King's Batman was an Elseworlds story, and the current comic that he's doing, I forget the name of it, Identity Crisis. I can't remember the name of it.
Heroes in Crisis.
Heroes in Crisis. If these were Elseworlds stories, people wouldn't care as much. But they're not. They actually have an effect on DC canon. And part of why I'm starting to realize that maybe the future of storytelling is going to be, when it comes to comic books, is going to be creator-owned, because we have such expectations for what is canonical that we don't want to ever see it change, ever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why every story that I'm even writing, I have like a 10-year plan for them, but they will eventually end and become something different.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, subversion is willingly trying to fuck with the audience.
Yeah.
So let's look at the definition of subversion. Refers to a process in which the values and principles of a system in place are contradicted or reversed in an attempt to transform the established social order and its structures of power, authority, hierarchy, and social norms. It is a postmodernist concept.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with postmodernism is it oftentimes does not make for good literature, especially if your goal is to fuck with the audience.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want your expectations subverted. You don't. Some people will tell me, will give you examples about interesting subversion because it does, it doesn't go the route that you're thinking it's going to go. It can make for an interesting story, but it's still entertaining. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to subvert people's expectations with an established franchise, to fuck with them, don't expect to make money very long.
Yeah. Yeah, some people like to use subversion as their way of making a mark. Like it's not trying to tell a story in a way that really changes the audience's perspective or perception of whatever, but just to say, hey, I did this. Bendis. Bendis is a perfect example of this, my God.
Yeah, his entire Superman run has been subversion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's
nothing there's nothing wrong with it as a storytelling device per se, but the biggest issue is, and this is really most common in long established franchises, like now we're at the point where if you're not writing Deconstruction, you're basically writing Subversion. We have certain expectations. We see the ways that stories should go, and instead of taking them into really unique directions while still holding on to that sort of expectation, it's like take a wild left turn for the sake of taking a wild left turn. It's so it can be one of those stories that people can talk about forever. Like the whole Rian Johnson philosophy. If 50% of the people love it and 50% of the people hate it, then I've made something good. Like, no, that's not how it works.
No.
I mean, people should not hate whatever you're creating. And you shouldn't make something just so people can hate it. I mean, you can make something controversial. You can make something that is going to have the potential to make people hate it, but still have a good reason for it. But subverting expectations for the sake of subverting expectations is not a good way to do it. That's not a good storytelling technique. The Last Jedi, obviously, this is going to be your prime example. The Last Jedi, subverting all the expectations. No, that's literally just doing it to do it. Think of Infinity War. Thanos wins. He is the true hero of that story. That's a subversion of expectations, but it's one that works well within the narrative.
Yeah.
And arguably the whole narrative is crafted around that idea of setting up what you would expect and then turning it on its head at the very end. And it makes you reevaluate the whole movie, as opposed to, hey, this should have happened because the characters have been like this forever and now they're not, and that doesn't make any sense because what the fuck is wrong with you? No. Motivations still have to make sense, for God's sake.
Yeah. There has to be a level of coherence to it if you're going to do something like that. And The Last Jedi is just not coherent at all.
It's not.
It doesn't really reach any of the objectives that it sets out to do. Everything that Rian Johnson said the movie succeeds at, it actually fails at. He's like, I wanted to make a diverse movie. The dumbest characters in this are the smartest people in the story are white people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, oh, I wanted to make this a more feminist movie. The dumbest people in the story are women.
Mm-hmm.
They
I mean,
literally
you
fuck
literally.
over the entire Rebel Alliance. Like, everybody who
Yep.
fucks up in the movie is female.
Yep. I mean, they literally redid Finn's character arc from The Force Awakens just so they could hash in Rose Tico, for God's sake.
Yep.
That, no. Nope. That subverted my expectations because, you know, I expected him to have some growth, not regression.
Yeah. But that's generally the issue. Rian Johnson sucks.
Yep.
He's really bad.
Yep.
And whenever you try to do a story like that, you know, and you want to have an ending that does kind of pull at the heartstrings and things like that, there has to be just, again, proper execution, and it has to be a very tight story. And even then, you have to also leave the door open to switch things around back to status quo, or at least, you know, have a proper ending that's going to leave, you know, people satisfied with the whole thing. I think Endgame is a perfect example of that. Is it was the end, and you walk away, you know, okay with that being the end. You know, it's like the Avengers are done. They've served their purpose. Now we're just gonna, you know, the world will be different from now on, and that's fine. You know, you can walk away with that happy. You know, in The Last Jedi, it's completely the opposite. You know, it's like you feel like everything's different because all these characters that you were trying to tell me are amazing are actually a bunch of fuck-ups. Yeah, my expectations are completely subverted. My expectation of a good fucking movie. So, hopefully that answers the question. There's a lot more to it, to be honest with you, that we could really analyze, but we've only got so much time.
Yeah. I mean, I could talk forever about literary theory. I mean, that's basically where one of my degrees is at. So,
yeah.
But for another time, we'll save it for another time.
Indeed. Swordsman 100. Let's move over to politics. Swordsman 100 asks, "Have we seen the White House take the first steps in combating online censorship? Trump is trying to build a case." So, in the ideal world, the fact the Trump administration is trying to build a case should be enough to scare people straight. But the fact that it isn't makes me think that this is going to go down a very, very rough and nasty road.
Yeah. There's also the element of what Canada is implementing right now with trying to hold social media accountable for hate speech and whatnot.
Yeah.
And whatever that pact was that New Zealand started about holding social media companies responsible for hate speech and radicalization and all that nonsense. And how, of course, the media jumped all over Trump because, hey, there's some free speech issues that we have here. You know, that does not line up with American values, so we can't get on board with this. I mean, it's, again, like we've said plenty of times, it's a boiling the frog approach. Yeah, who wouldn't want to see less hate speech? Who wouldn't want to see less radicalization? You know, all that shit. And then it turns into, well, you have these gateways to the far right, so maybe we need to get rid of them too. Oh, you know, well, these are gateways to the gateway, so maybe we should. And before you know it, everyone who's to the right of Karl Marx is far right. It's.
I think what we're finding is the same thing that we always find, is that governments tend to try to control through this idea of safety. And as such, they're basically neutering the human experience. You know, I am not of the opinion that, you know, we are in a place where on social media I am unable to have the experience I want with it. You know, if there's somebody that continues to pester me or annoy me, I can just block them.
Yeah, those tools exist.
Yeah, and let's not pretend they don't. And that's one thing that has annoyed me. Is people are like, oh, I'm triggered by social media. The block button exists. As long as you continue to tell me that all these people are harassing you when this supposed harassment could stop with a block button, I don't want to fucking hear it. Because you're being melodramatic.
Yep.
Because I don't hit that block button very often. I don't think I've ever had to do it very often. I had probably maybe 2 people in the course of the years I've been on Twitter actually harass me to a point where I had to hit that button.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't heard hide nor hair of them since in any area of social media, because it starves them of the attention that they want.
Yep.
There was a guy who, and here's an example. I don't even remember his name. Some dude, we'll just, for the sake of conversation, call him Low Rent Medicare. Because that's basically what he was trying to be. Low Rent Medicare. Who was getting pissy with me because I had left an advertisement or the ability for advertisements on a video I did about Juwario, where I was pretty distraught about what had happened with the whole situation. And he was trying to call me insincere and all this other stuff for having the advertisements on there. Trying to do what happened when Angry Joe did the same thing. And basically what I said was like, you can kiss my ass, you're just trying to be Mr. Medicare, I'm not falling into this trap, block. And that's the end of it. I've never heard of him since. What I ended up doing was I ended up, pulling ads off the video because I just uploaded it. I wasn't thinking very much. So I pulled all the ads off of it, I tracked what monetization it did make, it made $5 whole. That's it. $5. You know what I did with that $5? Donated it to the suicide prevention hotline.
There you go.
Because that's what you should do in situations like that. If you're going to discuss a deeply personal topic like that, and it has that sort of a weight to it, you should do it. And I am not against being held to a standard and held to a certain idea. But at the same time, if you're doing it for your bullshit clickbait, I'm not going to play your game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's generally been my statement when it comes to the online sphere. It's like, if people are trying to play this kind of a game with you, don't. And that's the thing about the online world. You don't have to play the game. You don't. So why, I don't understand why people feel like you have to. Or people portray it like you have to. If you're not Donald Trump, you can block people, apparently. At least as far as I understand the rules. But people are trying to say, like, oh, hate speech this, hate speech that. It's like, if you could ignore it, I don't give a shit. So the idea that people are being censored for having opposing opinions, I think is preposterous. If you're trying to tell me that Paul Joseph Watson, who to my recollection has never advocated for violence, is advocating for violence, I'm sorry, but what?
And that's the thing too. Like the bar for advocating violence is coming lower and lower and lower.
Yeah.
Like the whole milkshake thing. People are now arguing that, well, that's not violence. It's not hurting someone. Just throwing a milkshake on someone is not violence. And yet words are violence. Certain hashtags are violence.
Yeah.
There's no. It's inconsistency.
There's no standard.
Yeah.
And what gets
or if there is a standard, it's a double standard.
Well, and that's generally what it comes to, is there is a double standard. Notice that all of these governments that are pushing the censorship are left wing.
Mm-hmm.
Notice that all the people that they are promoting censorship against, except for maybe 1 or 2 examples, like Farrakhan or that one white nationalist guy who was banned in a recent, swath of Facebook bannings,
right,
have been conservatives. And I look at it and I go, who are you trying to fool here? You're trying to censor a specific political wing.
Mm-hmm.
Is what you're trying to do. You find them as a threat, and you're trying to shut them up.
Yeah. It's cultivating fear-mongering to eliminate political opposition. And ironically, that's what fascists do.
Yes. So, what will probably end up happening is it wouldn't surprise me if there is some executive order that is signed within the next 2 years, or if the House goes back to the Republicans, which it's trending like it might, in the next couple of years, that there's some sort of legislation that's put forward about this, because we are sadly at a point where we are having to use legislation to strengthen already put forward legislation when it comes to the Constitution. You know, unless somebody is literally advocating for actual violence, actual hurting of someone, they shouldn't be banned from social media. And I say this as somebody who despises a lot of people out there and the things that they spew, like the Richard Spencers of the world or the Louis Farrakhan's of the world. I'm perfectly fine with them being on Twitter. I'm perfectly fine with being, because I don't have to listen to them. Most people don't. So, yeah, it's absolute silliness. If I don't want the Trump administration to do something about it, but the more I see these things, the more comfortable I become with it, and that scares me. Because I'm not a big government guy. I hate government, just in general.
I think it's just the point of where we're at now. You know, social media has become such a standard part of life, you know, that it is essentially the public square, but it's privately owned.
Yeah.
Which, you know, of course is going to make you wonder, well, did we just give away our freedoms?
Yeah. The thought that I always have is, you know, how like, where's this all going to end up in 4 to 6 years when, you know, the different people are in power, you know? All right. Autist Whisperer wants to know thoughts on the Sargon BBC interview. I think Medicur's fans are being hyperbolic because I didn't think it was that bad. I haven't seen it. Medicur's fans are always hyperbolic because they hate Sargon.
Yeah, Medicur and Ralph, they're always going to do that. They were the ones that were really pushing the whole rape comments, literally just so he would face controversy for it.
Yeah.
And I'm of the belief that they're really the reason why he's getting shat on so much. Like, had they not said anything about it, he'd probably be doing much better. But
and this is a part of their sector of the internet. You know, the whole internet blood sports thing is they're looking for scalps.
Yeah.
And my general advice is again, like the other guy that I dealt with, the only way you give them power is if you pay them attention.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't pay them any attention, they're going to go away.
Yep.
Eventually, you know.
Yep.
So they want that scalp. They want to have that feeling that they destroyed someone. You know.
Absolutely. Especially if they can do it from such a massive stage like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they can take him down and have it be broadcast on the freaking BBC. Oh, for God's sake, that's gold to them.
Oh yeah. So, and I'm obviously opposed to it. I say let him run and see how he does.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? And if you can't do that, it makes me wonder about your character as a person. You know, let people rise or fall on their own merits, because some people will end up fucking up on their own.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
A lot of people end up fucking up on their own.
Yeah, and if you want to criticize, I'm not saying don't criticize them. I'm just saying do it in a when it comes to merit. If you're going out of your way to try to fuck someone's career up, how are you any different than the leftists?
Yeah, especially if you are laughing at the absurdity of people losing their shit over "I wouldn't even rape you" as a comment, and then using that to destroy the individual who said it. Like, come the fuck on. Like,
yeah, you're going a step
now
beyond.
You're just being a hypocrite.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's nothing wrong with laughing at the absurdity of the world, because the world is fucking absurd.
Yeah.
I have no issue with that whatsoever. But, again, when you start going into the area of trying to destroy something just to have something to laugh about, you have gone from, laughing at the absurdity of the world to trying to be the Joker.
Yeah.
This is not a Batman comic. Grow the fuck up.
Yeah. Not everyone wants to watch the world burn.
Yeah. Incel Mafioso wants to know, thoughts on the mayor of New York running for president. Does he have a good chance, or is it not likely? Oh, no, he's not
No,
gonna go
he does
anywhere.
not.
He's
No.
polling at 0. You know, like right out of the gate. Biden wins at this point.
He's not only polling at 0, but literally all of the pundits have told him this is a mistake. Nobody fucking likes you. You're not going to go anywhere.
He is one of the most least popular political figures in the world right now.
Oh,
Bill
yeah.
de Blasio, because he's almost quite literally a communist and has ruined New York. A lot of the things that Rudy Giuliani improved, he fucked up on. And now it is looking like Donald Trump Jr. might run against him.
Which it would be supremely hilarious.
I'm all for it.
I say fucking do it.
Here's the thing. I'm not laughing because Donald Trump Jr. is a legitimate conservative. He's more conservative than his father. And he's very serious about politics. Very serious about standing up for the little guy. He's been, you know, becoming more of an advocate for conservative belief and for improving the country. More so than I expected him to be. I figured that he and his brother would be stepping back and just running his dad's businesses for him while he's in the office. And that has not been the case. So, I'm all for it. I am perfectly for it. So, and on top of that, the difference between Donald Trump Jr. and his dad, Donald Trump Jr. is actually more likable to middle America. Now, Donald Trump himself has been polling much better in the areas we thought he was weak in, you know, recently. Like, he's doing a lot better with the suburbs now than he was before.
Mm-hmm.
The burbs are starting to get on the Trump train, which is what he needs to win the election. But as it stands, de Blasio, I think that if Donald Trump Jr. runs against him for the mayor, de Blasio's out. Donald Trump Jr. will win that race. Because everybody hates de Blasio. Everybody does. So, and de Blasio doesn't even have, like, the charms of, like, a Pete Buttigieg. You know, he doesn't even have that. He's an asshole. Nobody likes him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's generally the issue that, like, the Democrats are running into. Is, well, what are your successes? It's a giant shrug shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you look at the runnings, you know, what has Kamala Harris ever done except be a very bad district attorney? And an even worse senator. What has Cory Booker ever done except make himself look like an asshole? Nothing. You know, he's had no successes whatsoever outside of virtue signaling. Pete Buttigieg, South Bend is in tatters as a city. It is one of the worst cities in Indiana right now because of him. He's a bad mayor. Bernie Sanders has done literally nothing in his years as a senator except sit there and suck. And before that, when he was the mayor of a town, it was terrible. And everything that he did incorrectly and had to be fixed by other people later on. Biden, what's his big accomplishment aside from trying to bork Clarence Thomas?
The assault weapons ban.
And nobody sees that as a positive.
No.
So,
well, gun control groups might, but then again, they have no idea what they have no idea what the fucking assault weapon even is. But then again, the definition changes from legislation to legislation.
Exactly, but my point I'm making is it's the losers' club.
Yeah. Effectively, yeah.
So, as it stands, yeah, I have a feeling that we're going to start moving, as long as the right can stay consistent in regards to what people are looking for and not dismiss the populist, you know, uprising that we have seen. Because there are some conservatives who do, some that don't. Some have learned to embrace it, some not so much. I think that Glenn Beck has become much more accepting of sort of like the working class Republican. Shapiro definitely has. And then you have people on the right that are all about them. You know, like a Michael Knowles or an Andrew Klavan. Klavan probably more so than anybody. Klavan loves millennials. You know, and he loves, because millennials are all about art, and he's a writer. A damn good one at that. So, needless to say, I think that we're going to start moving in the direction that Israel is, where the left is going to become less and less popular as time goes on in this nation. Because, like, I see where Israel is at right now. That's where I see America in 10 years in regards to government rule, if we can stay the course. So, because for those who don't know, Israel's government is heavily conservative. If Benjamin Netanyahu was an American politician, he would have been a Tea Party guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I like Netanyahu as much as I do.
I kind of feel like Israel's government almost has to be conservative, though, because as soon as they turn left, Israel does not exist anymore.
Oh yeah, they would get flatlined.
Well, they'd probably cede all their fucking territory to Palestine at this point.
Mm-hmm. But that's the thing.
Remember, we do not recognize Palestine.
Yeah, the left is crazy these days, literally insane, and that's what's causing people to look at them and go, "Fuck, I don't want anything to do with this." And all Trump has to go is go, "Look at those crazy people. Do you really want them in charge?" No. So,
no.
All right.
I know.
Let's keep going. Gojira wants to know, what's the counter-argument to making abortion illegal does not decrease the amount of women who seek an abortion, so increasing dangerous and fatal that's actually incorrect. It's statistically incorrect. Abortions jumped considerably when they became legal after Roe v. Wade. We've had 60 million of them since then. 60 million. 95% of them in polling were completely elective. You want to know how many back alley abortions would happen maybe per year when abortion was not considered legal? Not even in the thousands. And the term back alley is not literally back alley with a coat hanger. What it is medical facilities that would open up their doors after hours to do the procedure in a clean and sterile environment. Mm-hmm. Also counted as supposedly back alley. And that was where most of them were done. So it's
still
nonsense.
Be an illegal procedure.
Yeah, it's
now.
But here's the thing: when you make something illegal, nobody's expecting it to all disappear.
Right.
Hatman, we ought to make that murder thing illegal. I've got problems with it. Or that.
I've got some news for you on that front.
Yeah, exactly. Murder, theft, like name any of the 7 deadly sins. Like a good chunk of them are illegal. You know, but it doesn't stop them from happening. Of course not.
No.
But what it does add is it adds a punishment. And that can act as a deterrent. And obviously for abortion it worked.
Mm-hmm. Well, my main issue with that argument is it worked before. Now we have had almost 40 years of this, of a culture that has largely been accepting of abortion. I think it's like 70% of the population believes that it should remain legal. How would that affect...
legal to degrees.
How would that affect abortions? Well, yes.
Yeah, let's be honest about the statistics here, because a lot of people are not comfortable with 2nd and 3rd trimester abortions.
No, but still, if we're talking about criminalizing all abortion, then that's still, even with the exception of rape and incest, that's less than 1%, a fraction of a percent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When statistics came out on that was even more shocking.
Yeah,
because incest was like 0.001%, rape was 0.01%.
Yeah, fractions. But how would that change things now? If it were criminalized, after we've had an entire two generations to see it, accept it, and understand it as a form of birth control, basically.
Well, that's the thing, is it's gone back and forth. I think that if you tried this in the 90s, it would not work. I think that nowadays we're a much more pro-life society. I think that, statistically speaking, Planned Parenthood is at its lowest approval rate ever. Mm-hmm. Abortion at its lowest approval rate ever. We have become a more pro-life society as time has gone on. I think that largely the pro-life movement has won a lot of the cultural battles. It just took time.
I think a lot of that also has to do with the outrageous aspects of abortion that the left is willing to not only consider but condone.
Well, yeah.
Like we saw with Virginia and New York, for example. And of course, that in turn spawned these heartbeat bills that we're seeing now. It's, I think more people are okay with it in issues of rape, incest, of course.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, most people are okay with it as like first trimester or up to 8 weeks or 12 weeks or something.
Yeah.
But after that, that's basically what we're seeing the left push for, is up to the point of birth or on demand whenever during your pregnancy. Like, does not matter. Well, and on top of that, I think the idea of taxpayer-funded abortions or abortion as health care has really twisted things as well.
Yeah. Well, I've talked to left-wingers about it, and when you talk to them about their views of abortion, and then you look at the modern left, it's completely different. Because I know women who have had them, and I've had long discussions about them, and oftentimes the story is almost always the same. They regret it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I think that a lot of people these days are just sickened by the idea of it. And what it says about American culture. Because even the Europeans are more strict on it than we are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, up until now. For Europe, for largely in Europe, it's like 16 weeks is the furthest you see. But then again, I think that in a lot of ways, it ties into things that our society has to rediscover. We've had to rediscover personal responsibility. We've had to rediscover the benefit of the family. We've had to rediscover the value of family, the value of life, in a lot of ways. And that's the sort of thing is our society is becoming less and less nihilistic. It was funny, we had a guy who was commenting in the last podcast who was like, oh, what does it even matter? Why does life even matter? I'm like, dude, if you didn't think life mattered, you wouldn't be alive. And that is something that we've had to tell people these days. Is like, everybody thinks that life is a good. Only cringy atheists seem to try to question that sort of thing, and even then it's hollow questioning. Because as many philosophy people will tell you, the only true nihilist is a dead one. So it's a lesson I learned myself from experience. So, but as to the original question, yeah, it's an argument that doesn't hold water. It's statistically not true. Most abortions are completely elective. And if we take it off the table, less people. I have a feeling people will just be more careful about sex, as they should be. It's not something you should be careless about. The biological, purpose of mating is baby. It's time for us to start being honest. If you want to develop better birth control, by all means. But that development should not mean the snuffing out of another life. Again, goes back to the Constitution. No man or no human should be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. There's no due process in abortion. All right, let's keep moving. Diego Camacho wants to know, what do we think of the idea that the U.S. should have allied with Ho Chi Minh against and the Soviets against China to divide the commies rather than get involved in the Vietnam War? Would have never happened.
Hold on, read that one more time.
He's asking why we didn't align ourselves with China and the Vietnamese to divide the communists during the Cold War. No, they would have never gone for that.
No, absolutely not. I mean, you were smack dab in the middle of the fucking Cold War at that point.
Yeah, there's no way that Ho Chi Minh would have ever allied himself with us. No,
absolutely not. And I don't think there would really have been any possibility for us to ally with anyone who had ties to the USSR at the time.
Yeah.
Be it through China or whoever the hell.
Yeah, would have never happened.
Mm-mm.
Micah Clark
Nope.
wants to know, do we think the criminalization of communism in the 50s is what led to leftists in the 60s taking it up because they viewed it as a counterculture? Yes. I do think that had some effect on it.
Sort of. I don't think it had a massive effect. I think what had more of an effect was communist propaganda using the civil rights movement as a springboard, and you can see that with some of the student protest movements at the time, like Students for Democratic Society, for example. That was used as leverage, more or less. You know, hey, we're for the liberation of all people, which, you know, goes right in tune with, hey, yes, that, you know, fuck the police, fuck the man, government's evil, all that shit. And that's where it really started to take a foothold. And we're still seeing the effects of that today. You know, if you are against oppression of anyone, you have to be in this camp, because we stand for a free society for everyone. Yeah. And that's why you have to be careful of what people mean when they call themselves libertarians now. Mm-hmm. You know, do you mean small g government libertarian? Do you mean an anarchist? Do you mean a anarcho-syndicalist? Do you mean a communist? What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. But you're gonna want to read a bit into the Why is my brain blanking on it? My headache's starting to get worse again. Breitbart talked about it a lot in Righteous Indignation, the Frankfurt School.
Yes.
And its influence on campus culture and things like that.
Yes, absolutely.
Because that has to look
into SDS. Anyone who's listening, look into that, and Weather Underground and their connections, Prairie Fire, all that shit. If you want sort of a historical backdrop for what we're dealing with today, there are a ton of fucking ties, and people have largely forgotten that we dealt with a lot of this shit now, 40, 50 years ago.
Pretty much. And then finally, the magical robot Prisma asks, is anti-Semitism the perfect litmus test to see if someone holds extreme politics? Seen this a lot in alt-left and alt-right groups. I do think that it is, actually.
Yeah, I would say so. Because
you see it, obviously you've got, your Richard Spencers of the world, and you've got your Ilhan Omars of the world. You have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who plays lip service to Islam, and is a supporter of Jeremy Corbyn, who is a massive anti-Semite. Mm-hmm. Like we recently said on the podcast, just to say fuck him was, Corbyn was being praised by Hamas for his support. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good sign of where not to go.
Yeah, I would say so, because it's that historical persecution attached to it, and also an endless amount of conspiracy theories, and really they can be adopted by either the far right or the far left. It doesn't really matter. The one thing they can shake hands and agree with each other on is fuck the Jews, apparently.
Yep. All right. Well, that was our last question for the day.
Last one.
And I'm sorry, folks. I'm very, very wiped.
Well, luckily we got it done.
Yes, very much so. Well, we are going to take off. Don't forget, podcast this weekend, 3-day weekend coming up, which is always awesome. I am hoping to stay nice and rested, but we'll see what happens there. Hatman, any final words?
I think everybody needs to be well rested, so get some sleep. Get a good night's sleep tonight, everybody.
That is definitely what I'm going to try to do. All right, folks. We appreciate you. We're going to go ahead and take off. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as the Hatman.
We'll see you next time. Deus Volt.
Deus Volt.